Hey, this is Jesse from Sava Press, and this video is just to flesh out a little bit more about what we're looking for as far as submissions. Now, I'm a writer myself. I know what it's like to spend hours of your life writing a story and then hours more perusing websites and publisher sites looking for an appropriate place to submit. And you run across all sorts of nitpickety, crazy little submission guidelines, and the descriptions of what these sites want are usually extremely vague or open to interpretation, right? My favorite example was one that said, we want good writing that pushes boundaries. What the hell does that mean? Well, here at Sava Press, you're not going to get any of that. We're going to be very literal. Aside from the submission guidelines that are already on the blog site, this is what we want. We like literary, character-driven stories that leave the reader with something to think about. Now, I know that's vague, but we're going to get a lot more definite and literal about this, okay? Our gold standard for this type of writing, Stephen King. You can't get any better than him. I know some people say that he goes on, but the man can make the most mundane thing seem incredibly profound. He uses so many literary devices to layer his stories. He references books, movies, TV shows, music, anything he can to flesh out his characters and his story, and that's what we like. Okay? And speaking of characters, that's the main part of the story. They have to seem like genuine, real beings. And it doesn't matter what the setting is. It can be a fantasy setting or a science fiction setting. It just has to ring true. Big part of that is the dialogue. It has to hit your ear right. It has to sound like the way the people in that setting would actually talk. Okay? The plot of the story. It has to be well thought out. There can't be major plot holes. You know, you don't want the reader coming away going, well, why did this happen instead of that? Or, you know, I could have done something better with that story. Now, I know there's a lot of armchair quarterbacks out there and people who always think that they can do better, but you want to keep that to a minimum. And the people that do say that about your story, you don't want them to really have a point about what they're saying, right? It's easy to say, no, that's not it. Now, if none of that is literal enough for you, let's get into the real nuts and bolts, or the technical aspects of writing. Okay? Avoid the passive voice. It gets old reading was in every sentence. He was this, she was that, it was this, right? Find other ways to put it that pack more of a punch and insert a little poetry in there, right? An example would be, you know, he was looking at the sun, right? Okay, fine. How about he gazed up at the bright burning sun? Well, that's a little bit better, I think. Give us some imagery, you know, really hammer it home what you're trying to say and make every sentence count. Aside from that, you know, lay off the adverbs quietly, slowly. That stuff, you know, the way Stephen King writes about it in his fabulous book of On Writing, about the art of writing, is it's basically a shortcut. You know, it's like a cheat thing. And once you start to get reliant upon that aspect of grammar, it just sort of takes over. And next thing you know, you've got them all over the place. And it brings down the quality of the writing. Okay? But on the other hand, I like a well-placed participle. That really gets the point across. I like alliteration. I like literary devices. All of that stuff. Onomatopoeia, also known as sound effects, like your thud, thwack, boom. I use those liberally in my writing. I mean, not to an absurd, like, comic book degree, but it really helps. You're writing about a fight scene, right? What happens? Punch someone in the face. Thwack. Thud. Smack. It can really help. And think about all the other tools of grammar and sentence construction that you have. That's why we named the press subject and verb agreement. Not only as a little bit of an in-joke, but and hopefully something that writers will appreciate, but also to serve as sort of a little reminder that we are looking for well-constructed fiction. So you've got your all the tools of punctuation. We like the Oxford comma, but you've also got your dashes, your semicolons, your colons, all of that stuff. I know it sounds funny, but it can all help you convey a certain thing, whatever it is in your writing. It can really help. Remember that reading is, I know it sounds incredibly duh, but visual. You're looking at the words on the page. You're looking at the way the sentences are constructed, looking at the way the paragraphs are constructed. So all of that stuff in the hands of a good writer can mean something. And that is what we like. And finally, if you're going to write a first-person narrative, for the love of all that is good and literary, make that main character's voice memorable. Give it something. Give it some character. That's about all I can really say about that for what we like at Sava Press. And read the masters. Stephen King, Ray Bradbury, Steinbeck, Hemingway, Edgar Allan Poe. My personal favorite writer, more so for his nonfiction than his fiction, but still his fiction is intense, Harlan Ellison. Can't go wrong. Alright, so I hope this video helps. Good luck and happy writing.